Hi there, everybody. It's Ellen Weatherford.
And Christian Weatherford.
And this is Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast, where we rate your favorite animals out of 10 in the categories of effectiveness, ingenuity, and aesthetics.
We are not zoological experts, but we try our best to bring the best information we can.
And I have a whopping 6 pages of information to bring to you today.
All right, we're here with quality and quantity today.
Yeah, this is the most notes I've ever done for an episode. So get ready for the info dump of a lifetime.
All right.
And for good reason, because this is a very special episode. It is Valentine's Day week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how popular Valentine's Day is outside of the United States, but just in case anyone's not familiar with Valentine's Day, it is February 14th. And it's just kind of a day to be a simp. It's a simp holiday. It's a cheesy, sappy day to show appreciation for your boo. It's a day of romantic gestures and appreciation.
Mm-hmm. Like chocolate.
And flowers.
Yes.
Also, a little bit of an extra romantic holiday for us because February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, is our wedding anniversary.
Sure is.
Which we definitely chose for very sentimental and romantic reasons, and definitely not just because it was the cheapest day that our wedding venue had available. So we have a lot of fun for Valentine's Day, and I really wanted to focus this Valentine's Day on an animal known for romance. Maybe not like often associated with romance in the sense that like you're not going to see it on, I guess, a lot of Valentine's Day cards and merch and stuff. The last year we did like the swan and love bugs, I think, for a Valentine's Day episode. And love bugs aren't exactly, I guess, the Valentine's Day icons either, but love is in the name.
Yes.
But this one, you won't see its imagery depicted on a lot of like love or romantic based things, but they are well known for romance. So a lot to talk about here. Like I mentioned, I have a lot to say about this animal. My notes include flight mechanics, romance, and Taylor Swift.
Okay. Very good.
We're covering a lot of ground today.
Uh-huh.
And these are albatrosses.
Yes.
So excited to talk about albatrosses.
Big bird.
Literally, they're so big.
Not the biggest.
Not the biggest bird, but the biggest bird that is also up. The biggest bird in the sky. They're the biggest bird that can fly.
Flighted bird? Mm-hmm. Even bigger than something like a condor? And
wingspan-wise, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think they're heavier than a condor, but wingspan-wise, yes.
Okay.
Albatrosses were submitted to us via email by Anne McMaster. Thank you, Anne.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm getting my information from the American Bird Conservancy, as well as, I'm just going to say so many articles. Like, I'm just going to have to cite all of them because there's a lot of them. So I'll cite them as they come up, but a lot of interesting stuff out there about albatrosses. So if you're not familiar with what albatrosses are, they are really, really big seabirds, huge seabirds. They're typically white, or sometimes like kind of brown, well known for having an extremely long wingspan. And they kind of look like, I would imagine you could probably confuse one for maybe a giant seagull or a pelican or something like that. Like they have that kind of seabird shape.
A seagull that you can see at a very confusing
from space.
Like distance.
Yeah, if you've ever seen one, you've been like, "Oh my God, that's a big seagull."
Do you have that wingspan distance for me?
I do. So the record is held by the wandering albatross, also called the snowy albatross. They have the longest wingspan of any bird in the world, and it can reach up to 11 feet or 3.5 meters wide.
So you're not getting those points in the game wingspan to predate them for sure.
We have been playing a good bit of... We've had a lot of snow days up here in our neck of the woods recently. We've been playing a lot of Wingspan in our house. We also got Isaac playing Wingspan, which is very fun. Wasn't sure if he was going to be able to play it because he's only 10 and the game is technically supposed to be like 14 and up because it's a challenging game. It's a quite complicated board game, but he really picked up on it quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, in that game, there is a mechanic where like when you are playing a bird of prey, like when you're activating a bird of prey, they can only successfully prey upon a bird that has like a wingspan smaller than a certain size.
I think
usually
the bigger
75.
the biggest one I saw was 100 centimeters or
Yeah.
less.
Yeah, so no, nothing is going to be preying.
A third of that, basically.
I haven't seen an albatross in the game wingspan.
We also haven't gone through all of it.
That's true. We haven't played as many times that we haven't gone through all of them, so we'll see. But the record for albatross wingspan is 11.9 feet or 3.6 meters. So if you stood on your own shoulders, that would be like the length of an albatross wingspan.
Right.
So these things are enormous, huge, huge, huge bird. They're found mostly around the Southern Ocean, which is the ocean that wraps around Antarctica, basically. That's considered like one ocean, the Southern Ocean. I mean, if you want to get like super pedantic about it, it's all one ocean.
Sure.
Because like, where do you decide like where this ocean starts and the next one ends? But the Southern Ocean is typically where you'll find albatrosses. Also along the Northern Pacific Ocean, with just one tropical species of albatross that nests in the Galapagos Islands. And that's the only ones that you'll find in like a tropical area.
They got the best birds there.
They do. They're so stacked. Like they have all the coolest creatures. Every time it's like, oh yeah, and there's this one really, really cool thing. And you know it's coming from Madagascar or the Galapagos Islands.
If I saw a news title that said "Real Dragon Found," I bet that was in the Galapagos Islands.
It's in the Galapagos Islands or it's in Madagascar. It's in one of those two places. Albatrosses belong to the family Diomedidae.
Oh.
There are 22 known species of albatross. And just to zoom out a little bit, because I was wondering, like, what are albatrosses related to? They look like a seagull to me, or maybe like a pelican, like you mentioned, or something like that. But they're not related to any of those things at all.
Okay.
Their closest cousins are petrels. Have you ever heard of a petrel?
No, not in a bird context.
Storm petrel.
Mm-mm.
There was a Pokemon based on them in Gen 9, I think. So petrels are these little seabirds that are known for a behavior called pattering, which is where they will fly really, really close to the water and they will bounce off of the water with their feet.
Oh.
So like it looks like they're like running on the surface of the water.
Okay.
They're just bouncing themselves like off the surface to kind of like stay in flight.
Oh.
But it's very cute.
It sounds like a fun thing to do.
I know. I would do that if I was a little bird. So that's just kind of intro to what an albatross is, really big seabird. To get into our ratings for albatrosses, if this is anyone's first time listening to this podcast, we rate animals out of 10, and the first category is effectiveness, which is physical adaptations, things that the animal has built into their body that let them do a good job of the things that they're trying to do. And I'm giving the albatross a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
And the first thing I have to talk about is like the most obvious feature about them, which is their wings.
Yes.
Not only are the wings very long, but they're also very, very skinny, and they taper to like a point. So they're almost like blade-like. These big, narrow wings are made for soaring very long distances without needing to flap very often. And I hear that a lot about long, narrow wings being good for gliding, good for soaring. And I got curious as to why. Like, why does that shape work better than like a broad wing or a short wing? Like, what is it about that shape that helps? So I learned about something called aspect ratio.
Okay.
Heard about an aspect ratio?
No, again, not in this context.
yeah, I've heard about aspect ratio in like photography.
Right.
Like, or the dimensions of a picture or something. Yeah. But that's actually a good way of thinking about it, because like it's like the ratio of like length to width, basically.
Okay.
But think about it in a wing. So the ratio of length to width of the wing. So a long, skinny wing has a high aspect ratio, high ratio of length to width. It's very long, very low width, high aspect ratio.
Yes.
While a short and wide wing has a low aspect ratio. This comes into play with wind vortices. So first of all, if you go back one episode to the flying snake episode, Christian gave a very great overview of flight dynamics and like the forces at play in flight. So if you're curious about that stuff, go back to that episode. But wingtip vortices are something I actually talked about. I think it was in the brown pelican episode. So basically, when you have a wing that's flying, at the tips of the wings, air wants to curl from the high pressure area under the wing into the low pressure area above the wing. So for most of the wing, it just like kind of glides underneath. But at the wing tips, it has an opportunity to curl up above. So you get this vortex, this swirl of air that's swirling from the bottom to the top. And this creates something called induced drag. This means that the larger the wingtip is, the larger the vortices are. So the more downward force you're generating at your wingtips. So this means if your wingtips are very, very small, from like a narrow, pointy wing, you're going to get little itty bitty tiny little vortices and not very much downward force. So it really minimizes that induced drag and lets them stay up longer because they're not pushing themselves down with their wingtips as much. Now, a trade-off of this aspect ratio is like stability versus maneuverability.
Yeah.
So when you have these long, skinny wings, you're going to be really, really stable in flight. You're not going to be like descending as much, but they're very difficult to turn. It's a lot more difficult. You can't make those tight little like hairpin turns. So you look at birds that have these more short and broad wings would be things like sparrows and hawks that are more short bursts of flight, but they need a lot of like agility. They need to be able to turn, maneuver through trees, stuff like that. So that's kind of the trade-off there is like stability for maneuverability.
Yeah.
So for albatrosses and also for like a lot of these gliding seabirds, they're just leaning more into stability because they're more interested in traveling very long distances than like dodging through treetops.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of makes sense because a bird that's doing a lot of flapping, that's more wing to move, right? When you're flapping, but also when birds flap their wings, they have to do something like I imagine someone trying to row a canoe has to do. Like you're using the oar, right, to push through the water.
Yeah.
And then when you're coming back up from that stroke, you have to angle it in such a way where you're not pushing yourself back in the other direction, right?
Yeah.
So every time a bird flaps its wings, it has to angle it and pull it in such a way where it's not outdoing the forward momentum it's trying to generate, right?
Yeah, there's actually a really, really interesting thing that I'm going to get into in Ingenuity.
Oh, nice.
There's a really interesting way the albatross soars that can kind of give it a similar effect to flapping without them actually having to flap. It's really, really cool. I'll talk about it in just a second.
The updrafts, I assume?
No, it's not that actually.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's similar to that, but it's called dynamic soaring.
Oh, okay.
It's really cool. I'll talk about it in a couple minutes. Don't get ahead of me.
All right.
We have so much ground to cover. So in addition to, these wings that are built with this aspect ratio that really benefits them for like long flight, they have these tendons in their shoulders, unique to albatrosses. Like all birds have these tendons in their shoulders that like connect the, the muscles and the bones and stuff. The albatross's tendons lock in place when their wings are outstretched. So when they're in their soaring position of having their wings totally out, like stretched beside them, those tendons lock the wings in place so that they don't have to keep exerting effort to hold their wings up.
Oh, that's nice.
They're just like, they're set there. Like they're good. They're literally locked in. Like
the best at T-posing.
I had it in my notes. I was like T-posing through the sky. Like, it's like in like Skyrim mods when people change the dragons to like Randy Savage or something.
Sure.
He's just like T-posing through the sky. It's like that. They're just like that. I thought this was really cool. And also, I'm not the only one who thinks this is really cool because engineers at Airbus have actually been working on designing aircraft wings with semi-elastic hinges on the wingtips that are inspired by albatrosses.
Oh.
So it basically lets the airplane wing bend and flex in strong gusts.
Oh, yeah.
So that it can basically like unlock, do a little bit of flexing and flapping, and then relock, like lock back in place, like an albatross's wing. So the idea is that it can help, first of all, like reduce the impact of turbulence.
Right.
So if you're going through a really strong gust, you can unlock your wings, maneuver a little bit, like reduce the impact of that turbulence, and then lock it back in place when you're ready to be soaring again. And also, that is meant to help alleviate the load that it places at the joint where the wing meets the fuselage of the plane.
Right.
Like when the wing is totally rigid and long, that puts a lot of strain on the body of the airplane, and it has to be really reinforced, which makes the plane a lot heavier. So if the wing is more flexible, the idea is that they can make the plane a lot lighter and improve the fuel efficiency.
Yeah.
This was an article on Airbus's website from 2019, and they were actually specifically talking about how the inspiration was from the Albatross. Like they were inspired by the locking mechanism of the Albatross's wing. And that was in 2019, and that design has been developed and tested and is now being like put in new plane designs.
Nice.
So like you're seeing a little bit more, you see more progress in that, and that's like a really interesting biomimicry, like how our planes are taking cues from birds.
Reminds me of the train design you talked about previously.
Yeah, the subway bullet trains in Japan were inspired by the Kingfisher. Yeah, talked about that in our Banded Kingfisher episode with Alex Troutman. So yeah, I really enjoy biomimicry stuff. I think that's just really cool. But also their wings aren't even the only things that they have in common with aircraft.
Okay.
So this was something I was very excited to read because I mentioned this in our last episode together, but many, many years ago, feels like a lifetime ago, I worked for an aircraft parts like sales company. And a lot of like aircraft parts are just names that I really only kind of encountered like as a name. I never had hands on the parts or anything like that. I couldn't identify one. If you stuck one on my desk and said, "What is it?" I would have no idea what it is. But I got to learn about something called a pitot tube.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you look really, really closely at an albatross's beak, you will notice two very pronounced like nostril tubes at the like sort of at the top of their bill. So these tubes act as built-in pitot tubes. A pitot tube is a little L-shaped, like a 90-degree angle tube that you might see sticking out the side of like an airplane or something like that.
Okay.
And it is a little device that detects the speed of the air flowing outside of the plane. So it can help the plane, tell the plane how fast it's going, basically.
Okay.
So it measures air pressure and like the difference between the flow of the air, like going into the tube versus static air pressure around it.
Okay.
So basically the Albatross has this built into their bill, which is really, really cool. Like it gives them really fine-tuned data as to like how fast the air is flowing around them, which is really important for their dynamic soaring, which I'll talk about in a little bit. It is very important for them to know like what is the wind speed around them while they're flying.
Right.
But there's one other cool thing about their bills that it was something that I was a little bit curious about when I first looked at them, and I was very excited to figure out what it's all about. So being seabirds, birds that spend all of their time over the ocean or on, islands and stuff, they have no access to fresh water. None. They only have salt water, which means that all they can drink, all they can take in is salt water. So in order to help balance out the salt levels in their body, they have salt glands. So this is a gland that is just above their eyes. In albatrosses especially, it is huge. Like the salt gland is huge. A lot of seabirds have them, but albatrosses, theirs are especially large. And it is this gland that extracts salt from the blood. So the bird drinks a bunch of salt water. It has too much salt in its blood. The salt glands take the salt out of the blood and then secretes the salt out through the nostrils as like a mucus, like a nasty sort of snot.
Yeah, we talked a lot about this on the, was it pelican?
Brown pelican. Yeah, pelicans do this too. It's funny you mentioned that because I have the same source.
Okay.
Before I get there, the salty mucus comes out through the nose. And if you look at an albatross's beak, you'll notice that it has this sort of like groove that runs all the way down its beak and like down to the hook part of the bill. It's a snot groove, basically.
Okay. That's
it's
nice.
A juice groove. So you can think about that next time you're using the cutting board with our juice grooves.
Actually. I promise.
Well, it basically acts like a gutter because it lets like the mucus run down this groove and then down the hook at the end of the beak and like just drip down off the front of the beak instead of like falling back down into the bird's mouth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you mentioned the pelican episode, and I believe in the pelican episode, I talked about this exact same YouTube series as well. But the Whitmer Lab at Ohio University has this series of videos on YouTube. They're called Dissecting with Emily. And they're just videos where in this lab, they, dissect specimens of whatever animal it is that they're studying, and they make videos where they like point out different things on there. They're like, here's the orbital glands, and here's the very, very cool videos. I will say these are real specimens. If you do not like to see dissections, if you're squeamish, do not watch them. I'm not bothered by it, so I watched it because I wanted to see where these salt glands were.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know, they have a video, Dissecting with Emily, where they have a Laysan albatross, which is one of the species of albatross. Specifically, they're pointing out the salt glands on the albatross. I was like, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you. The last thing I wanted to talk about for effectiveness is something that I wouldn't say necessarily is like super unique to albatrosses, but it is of note, and that is their long lifespans. They live for a very long time, particularly a wild Laysan albatross named Wisdom. Wisdom is the oldest confirmed wild bird in the world.
Wow.
All birds. She's the oldest one that we know about, like confirmed. We know when she was banded. She's known to be at least 74 years old.
Wow.
Because she was banded in 1956, and the ornithologist who banded her passed away many years ago. So she long outlived the person who actually banded her in the first place. Not only is she still kicking, she's still having babies.
Well.
So her newest chick hatched just a couple weeks ago on January 30th of this year.
Aww.
Her chick hatched. This is an important thing to like also point out. Like humans go through menopause, where you reach a point in the human lifespan where the reproductive system is just done. Like if you have a uterus, you reach a point in your lifespan where all of that is like, no,
Right.
we're good. And it closes up shop. That's unusual in the animal kingdom. Only humans and like a handful of species of toothed whales do it. Most animals will reproduce for as long as they can. So, like, it's not that surprising that this albatross is still having chicks this old.
Okay.
It only seems unusual in contrast to, like, us because we go through menopause. But they don't. So, can you imagine 74 years old and having a newborn? Like, I can't believe I'm still doing this, please.
No, I could not imagine.
I mean, she's probably got great grands at this point, right? Like, can you imagine what that family tree looks like? Like,
got lots of babies out there.
Lots of babies, but like also being the same age as like your great grand aunts and uncles and stuff. Like all technically part of the same generation, but like many decades apart in age. That's gonna be crazy. So yeah, that's Wisdom. I did want to have a shout out for Wisdom because everybody loves Wisdom. She's great. The next category that we rate animals on is ingenuity. These are behaviors, things that they're doing with their body to solve problems, get out of pickles. I'm giving albatrosses a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
There's some big pros and some big cons here. So I'm going to start with the thing that I alluded to a few minutes ago, which is dynamic soaring.
Okay.
So if you watch an albatross fly, you will notice that it's not just at one level. It's not just soaring straight ahead. They do this sort of S-shaped, they dip down really close to the water and then pull back up and fly up and then dip back down. It's this sort of up and down and up and down and up and down, but it's also side to side, and that is called dynamic soaring. Over the water, there's a wind speed gradient. The higher up you go, the faster the wind is.
Okay.
So down like just above the surface of the water, the wind is very slow or even still. But as you get higher and higher, that wind gets faster and faster and faster. Albatrosses, when they take off, they will climb up high to where the wind is very, very fast. That phase is called the windward climb, where they're flying into the wind. Then once they're up there, they tilt their wings to turn to face away from the wind in a what's called a leeward descent. So when they're facing away from the wind, they're descending. So during this leeward descent, they're gaining a lot of momentum because they're both being pushed by the wind and they're falling. So they're gaining a lot of momentum. And then right when they get down close to the surface of the water, they pull up and go back into that windward ascent all over again. So it's a windward ascent, a turn, a leeward descent, and then a turn.
Okay.
And they just do this over and over. And it's a cycle that just repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats.
Doesn't that mean they're not going anywhere?
Their overall movement is like perpendicular to the direction of the wind.
Huh.
So they're using the wind to climb and descend and climb and descend, but overall they're moving like directionally perpendicular to the wind.
I might personally need a visual aid for that.
I think I can pull up a visual. Hold on one sec. Imagine that the albatross is facing, for example, north, and the wind would be going from the west to the east. So the bird is like climbing and falling and climbing and falling. And overall, the bird is going north, but it is doing this west to east sort of back and forth.
Okay. So I guess that means that this method is limited to two directions, right? Perpendicular to the direction of wind travel, but in either direction.
It also is limited at a sort of wind speed floor because the wind needs to be fast enough to propel them in order for them to not lose momentum in between cycles.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? That one obstacle in Ninja Warrior where it has a person stepping like left and right to like alternating kind of triangles.
Okay. Yeah.
It's that kind of movement.
That is a good way of describing it too. I imagine it as a roller coaster.
Sure.
With this kind of climb and fall and climb and fall. But the difference is that with a roller coaster, when it's just doing the climb, like if it just climbs to the top, falls, and then how the roller coaster kind of uses momentum from the fall to roll into the next climb. You know what I'm talking about? It's kind of like that. It's using the momentum from the descent to turn into the next climb. Yeah. But with a roller coaster, that's only going to work a few times because it's being slowed down by friction and it's being pulled down.
It would do the same here. Like that's
you
not
would think it would.
That's not all momentum. A lot of that's coming from the lift from the air movement.
Yeah. So researchers actually analyzed data from GPS trackers that they found, and they found that no energy was being lost in this cycle. So the albatross, their flight had the exact same amount of energy at the beginning of the cycle as it did at the end. So they weren't losing any momentum at all.
Were they talking about potential energy?
Yeah, because the potential energy is like converted into kinetic energy when it like does that turn up into the ascent. So basically they can do this perpetually. Like they're not losing any momentum. They're not losing any energy to this cycle. And the only like limiting factor is the speed of the wind. So the wind has to be fast enough to like propel them, like carry them through this cycle. But as long as the wind is fast enough, they could theoretically do this forever. Right. It's like they could perpetually fly. It's an infinite lift glitch.
But eventually they'll hit wind that's maybe not moving in such a way that gets them to where they want to go.
Well, eventually they'll get hungry.
That's true.
Like, they will eventually need to stop flying for like physiological reasons.
Yeah.
But this like dynamic soaring pattern allows them to stay aloft without having to exert like any actual energy. There's a really good write-up about this study with a lot of really good visualizations and graphics and stuff like that. It's on the IEEE spectrum, which, I didn't write down what IEE stands for. What is that?
Was that 3 E's?
Yes.
That's IEEE.
Is that? Are you being for real? Are you making a joke?
No, like the engineering thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Because I was a member of it during college.
What? You were really? Oh my gosh. This is your boys. This is your fam. This is your squad. Well, it stands for the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, which I guess you would have known, and I could have just asked you.
Well, I didn't, because that was Over 10 years ago now.
Oh my gosh. Well, on their website, and the article was called The Nearly Effortless Flight of the Albatross. And that was by a professor of flight mechanics, Gottfried Sachs, an aerospace engineer, Johannes Traugott, and a biologist from the Albatross study. So one of the biologists who was actually like doing that GPS study, Anna Nestorova. And that article was from June of 2013.
Cool.
Yeah. Really good article that really goes into like the physics behind like how the dynamic soaring works. So if you want to get more into the weeds on that, very good write up there.
Nice.
This is where I would like to take a quick break.
Okay.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our friends on the Maximum Fun Network. And then when we get back, we're going to talk about romance, bird romance.
Big E is a former WWE champion.
He spent 10 years at the top, sharing the ring with John Cena and Roman Reigns.
So, what's next?
When I retire, I'm going to move to the desert. I'm going to delete all my socials. I'm going to disappear. Y'all will never hear from me again. I'm going to sit on the couch, chill, and live my life.
From the legendary tag team The New Day.
It's Big E on Tights and Fights.
I feel like I need to listen to a few episodes that you guys have because this was really enjoyable. So
Oh, no.
Thank you so much for your time. Oh yes. Oh, yes.
Available on Maximum Fun or wherever you get your podcasts.
The following are real reenactments of pretend emergency calls.
911. My husband! It's my husband! Calm down, please. What about your husband? He loads the dishwasher wrong. Please help! Please help me! Where are you now, ma'am? At the kitchen table. I was with my dad. He mispronounces words intentionally.
There are plenty of podcasts on the hunt for justice, but only one podcast has the courage to take on the silly crimes. Judge John Hodgman, the only true crime podcast that won't leave you feeling sad and bad and scared for once. Only on MaximumFun.org.
We're back. And as I alluded to before the break, love is literally in the air. So albatrosses do spend the vast majority of their life at sea. They're usually just flying over the ocean, but they do come to shore once a year for mating season. When an albatross is about 8 to 10 years old, they start congregating on land, on islands and on cliffs, stuff like that. And they come around to court potential mates. So they'll gather in a group of young, unpaired albatrosses, forming basically an impromptu singles mixer. Where you get around with all the young single albatrosses, and everyone is posturing, and everyone is flexing, everyone is mewing and mogging, and just really trying to impress all of the other young single albatrosses.
Now, wisdom has shown us that it's not just a young bird's game.
That's true. Well, at the point that Wisdom's at, she's not going to these anymore.
Oh, okay.
Like, this is the sort of thing that, like, young single albatrosses do.
I see.
And they will actually, a lot of times, they will not pair the first few times they do this.
Good for them.
So they'll spend a few years, like, coming back, getting to know each other. Like, they get to know the rest of the colony. They will kind of, like, play the field, see what their options are, you know, like really get to know each other, figure out who they're interested in, what they're looking for in a partner. They don't rush into things, because for albatrosses, this is a very big commitment. Like, this is huge. This is who they pick. They're picking
I see.
long term. So they really take their time with it. They will usually go a few seasons just observing, basically, like courting and displaying, but not necessarily pulling the trigger on mating yet. Because after they've done this a few times, then the males will start to claim nests. So they will build a nest, or they will, you know, claim a nest that's already been built that isn't being used anymore. So males will claim a nest, and then once a male has a nest, the female albatrosses get to go shopping. So the female albatrosses will go from nest to nest and get a look at who the males are, and, you know, like, kind of look around and court and display with some of the different males and see who she's interested in. The courtship displays and the mating displays for albatrosses are things like they're spreading their wings out very, very wide. They're throwing their beaks up to the sky. They're chattering their beaks together, making this sort of like clicky, clicky, clicky sound.
Oh, yeah.
They do something called sky calling, which is where they just throw their head back and scream at the sky, which is great, especially when they do it together, because it's like one of them is just screaming at the sky and the other one's like, yeah, dude, mood. And they just both scream at the sky, which
seen a couple birds do that, like other species, but yeah.
It's great. Just let it out, like relieve tension, just scream at the sky. They tend to have a preference for males who can stay on land for longer, because they're not here like all the time.
Right.
They come onto land and then they can stay there for a while, but eventually they're going to get hungry and they need to leave and go back to the ocean and forage. So the males who can stay on land for a long time, it shows to the female that they're really good, successful foragers and they're well fed enough that they can afford to stay on land for a long time, because they're so well fed and they're so fit that they can handle a fasting period. So, once they have chosen, who they're going to mate with, they are locked in, because that pair will mate not just that season, but every season afterwards, usually for the rest of their life, which, as I mentioned earlier, can be many, many decades. Because once the breeding season is over, they go their separate ways. They don't stay together. They don't live together, right? They're usually very solitary birds. They spend all of their time foraging alone. They go their separate ways. They fly around the ocean. And then after, months of flying, thousands and thousands of miles, when the breeding season comes back around, the birds come back not just to the same island, but to the same nest that they used the last season, and they find each other.
Aww.
Like they reunite with the same individual that they mated with last time. And you gotta watch videos of albatrosses being reunited, like in the mating season when they come back together after not seeing each other for like a whole year. It is beautiful. They're so happy to see each other. So I mean, it is so emotional. I know a lot of this is like anthropomorphizing them, but like you can't help it. They're so happy to see each other. It's like, it reminds me of like dogs when their owners come back from college or something like that, when you see like a dog reunited with like a person they haven't seen in a long time. There's like, it's that kind of energy. Like they are just chattering and singing to each other. They do like a little dance together. They put their heads up and they like wag their heads, and they will kind of embrace and groom each other, which is very sweet. I feel like you don't see a lot of birds grooming each other. I feel like grooming each other feels like a sort of a mammal thing to do, but they preen their feathers and they very gently sort of like, because they got these giant beaks, right? These are huge birds.
Yeah.
So to see these like, enormous, normally very solitary and independent birds, like just fawn over each other and just so like gently and affectionately like groom each other and stroke each other. Like it is so emotional. I want to cry when I see these albatrosses. It's really, really beautiful. It's very romantic. Albatrosses also only lay one egg per season, and they co-parent.
Oh, good for them.
It's very egalitarian, actually, where like one of the parents will stay behind with the egg while the other goes off to sea to forage, and that usually takes like 1 to 2 weeks. And then they come back and relieve the other parent, and the other parent leaves and goes off to forage for themselves.
I was thinking that seems like a long time, but I guess all of the albatrosses there are doing the same thing. So they probably have to go out a ways to find food sources that haven't been taken by other albatrosses.
Yeah. And this is the ocean, so you've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
They continue doing this even after the egg hatches. So after the egg hatches, they still are like working together in shifts to, parent the hatchling. And there was even a recent study that showed that albatrosses even change how long they stay out foraging based on how long their partner can last without them. So basically, for example, if their partner is older and might not be able to fast for 2 weeks, right? Like, or if your partner is smaller, or if your partner is like not in the best health, partners of albatrosses that are older or not able to last as long are a lot more likely to only stay out for 1 week or, or even less than that. Like they're a lot more likely to make shorter trips based on what their partner needs, which is really, really interesting because like they're not like together year round. This is just something that like they would have picked up on from seeing each other like in short bursts, but over so many years, right? They just really get to know each other. But also that's like kind of sweet though, to like, they're like taking their partner's needs into account, in their own behavior and like changing their own behaviors to better like cover for their part. I don't know, it's really sweet.
It is sweet.
I think it's nice. That study, by the way, is called Partner Intrinsic Characteristics Influence Foraging Trip Duration, but not Coordination of Care in Wandering Albatrosses Diomedea exilans, and that is by Fionuala R. McCulley et al., and that was in Ecology and Evolution in December of 2022.
Very good.
On Oahu Island in Hawaii, albatrosses only started nesting there like a couple decades ago. They hadn't nested there until that land was like federally protected. Once it was protected enough, albatrosses started to nest on the island. But more females than males immigrated to the colony. So the island of Oahu ended up having 59% female albatrosses.
Right.
So in 2008... a study on Oahu revealed that in this colony, about a third of all nesting pairs were both female partners. So 2 females sharing a nest together. And the way it would work was that each female in the pair would seek out basically a sperm donor.
Right.
So it'd be a male albatross, usually a male albatross who was mated with another female. So they would seek out these mated males, receive sperm from him, have no further contact with that male. They go back to their own nest. They lay their eggs and they raise their eggs together. So they're like seeking out a sperm donor from someone else's mate, but then going off and raising their, eggs and their chicks together.
Right.
So what I found interesting about this that they noted in the study was that hatching success was lower in female-female pairs, meaning that fewer of the eggs hatched.
Okay.
I don't know why, but the fledging rates, as in like the survival rates of the chicks that hatched, were the same between female-female pairs and male-female pairs. So it seemed like the rearing process was no different. Like the female-female pairs were equally capable of caring for the chicks once they hatched. They were just a little less likely to hatch. But 2 eggs.
Interesting.
So like, yeah, maybe they're a little less likely to hatch, but you also have extra chances because you have 2 eggs instead of the usual 1.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting way that they were able to like behaviorally account for an imbalance, like a population imbalance, and tip the reproductive scales back in their favor.
Because after fertilization, I guess the main point of there being 2 adults per egg is just to have it constantly cared for and incubated, right? But then it doesn't matter giving a shift so the adult can take care of their own needs, right? All
that matters is that there's 2. Like it doesn't matter which one it is. That paper was called Successful Same-Sex Pairing in Laysan Albatross, and that was by Lindsay Young in Biology Letters in May of 2008. Now this is all very cool, but of course, as always, there is sometimes trouble in paradise. As with any monogamous species, not every pairing ends up being for life. They do sometimes divorce and find other partners. Although albatrosses do have much lower rates of divorce than other monogamous birds. But a 2022 study on the relationship between divorce rates and individual personalities of albatrosses suggested that shyer males were more often divorced than bolder males.
Okay.
So the researchers suggested that it could be that the bolder males are basically rizzing up the shy one's girl. Like he's like an interloper, right? Like he'll come intrude. Like maybe this female is already mated with this shy male albatross, but a bold male could come along and basically step in and be like, well, look, I'm bigger and cooler than this guy. Don't you want to mate with me instead? How about you dump him and get with me? And the shy males were less likely to fight back and less likely to stand up for themselves, basically.
Now, is the bolder male leaving its own mate for this? Or is
the bolder male often doesn't have a mate.
Okay.
So it'd be like a bold, unpaired, or I don't know, maybe he is leaving his girl. I don't know. I don't know what he's got going on. But the idea is that when challenged for the mate, A shy male is less likely to like put up a fight and stand up about it and like fight back. So he's more easily edged out in what they called a forced divorce.
Okay. Huh.
Which I'm imagining this in the terms of like those like Giga Chad comics.
Oh jeez.
Not the Giga Chad, the like beta Albatross.
Oh no.
The Albatross.
Jeez.
Get mogged, dude. I'm sorry. There's a very, very fun illustration in the paper that like shows different like dynamics of like albatross divorce, and it does include little broken heart symbols to represent divorces.
That's rough.
It's a fun diagram. That study is called what?
Sound fun.
The what?
That doesn't sound fun.
No, it's not. Well, it's fun for me. The paper is called "Boldness Predicts Divorce Rates in Wandering Albatrosses." And that was by Rui Jiao Sun et al. In Biology Letters in September of 2022. Gosh, that was very funny for me to read. Not dunking on the shy guys. It was such like a nice guy manifesto. So I did deduct quite a few points for albatrosses in ingenuity, and this is for, I'm calling them tragically fearless. Albatrosses typically nest on very isolated islands where there are no terrestrial mammals. And very few terrestrial animals at all. Like, there's just no large animals on the islands where they typically live. So they have no natural defenses or even fear of any creature on the land. If it's on the land, their brain short circuits. They don't know how to process that information. Sure. They're like, you're not supposed to be here. And they don't register it as danger. They don't have an instinct that tells them like, oh, a large creature on land is a bad thing. Because they're like, you don't go here. Large creatures don't go up above the water. You're supposed to be down there in the water. So this means when the islands that they live on are introduced to things like rats and cats, creatures that are often introduced to islands because of, humans that appear on the islands and bring critters with them, albatrosses don't recognize them as a threat or realize what's happening at all. And rats and cats do love preying on albatross eggs and chicks.
Ah, okay.
Albatrosses have even been observed. Now, this is anecdotal. I couldn't find like evidence of this happening, but this is like an anecdotal observation that's very well known, that they would just watch their young being eaten. Like, like a rat or something would just like climb into an albatross's nest and like eat the egg in front of them, and the parent would just not know what to do.
Can I back up for a second?
Yeah.
What score did you give them?
A 7.
That's
this seems to be it's not that common of a thing. Because it's the dynamic soaring thing is so cool. They're gay.
I'm starting to think that the flying thing was just a fluke that
they stumbled into.
And they just kept doing it.
Well, this isn't gonna be good for my case. This is so detrimental to the brand. But in Japanese, the name for the albatross is ahodori, which translates to idiot bird.
Yeah.
Because apparently, in the 19th century, people would hunt albatrosses for their feathers, and you could just walk right up to them. You just go grab them. Like, they would just look at you. You'd walk right up to them, and they'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing?
Yeah,
what's that net for?" They would just watch you. They'd be like, "Hey."
Yeah, they're big, but they're still flighted birds. Do you have a weight by any chance? Like what they weigh on average? 20-something
pounds, I think. You could just grab them. Don't. I'm not endorsing it, but yeah, they have a reputation for you could just yoink. You just grab them. Now, a pro of this is that this can make research a little easier.
What's the opposite of cryptic?
Conspicuous. You could just walk right up to them and you just slap a little GPS tracker on there, and the whole time they just be looking at you like, "Hey, what's that for?"
You just ban them, take a blood sample, they don't even blink. Are they capable of blinking? I don't know.
time. There's so many pictures of like albatrosses being like researched and studied, and the scientists will be like 3 feet away. The bird is just like looking at them like, hey, I guess you're also here.
This is why you found so many sources about them.
I know. I was thinking about this, but I was like, this is why there's so much on these guys. 'Cause you can just like, it's just shy of just asking them, like walking right up to them and asking them, like, hey, where do you migrate to?
Where are your very vulnerable eggs and chicks?
Right here. Thank you for showing me the way.
Reminds me a little bit of the marine iguanas.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Well, these, if you threw them off a cliff, they'd fare much better than the marine iguanas.
So, question. So these birds are at sea most of the time.
Yeah.
What are they doing at night when they go to sleep? What are they doing?
I mean, if I had to guess. So there's some birds, I think it's the frigate bird. There's some birds who can like microdose sleep, basically.
Okay.
Like they can basically, like while they're soaring, they can like sleep for a few minutes at a time. So it could be something like that. It could be that they're just like coasting and they are able to like sleep on the wing a little bit. This I do not know. I'm guessing.
Okay.
It could be that they're sleeping on the wing. And I think swifts, some types of swifts, I think can sleep on the wing. It could be that they're on the water. They can take off from the water. So they could just come down to the water and maybe like sleep on the water.
But that is where some actual predators do live.
Yeah, it's not the best place to be. But I mean, you could. I mean, maybe that's where they sleep. I don't know for sure where they sleep.
Huh.
But
I guess the options are they have a landmass nearby that they will roost on for the night, or while flying, or on the ocean.
But I think they spend a lot of time so far away from like any body of land that I think they're either sleeping a little bit on the wing or they're sleeping on the water. That would be my guess.
I wonder if sleep deprivation has anything to do with
maybe that's why they're like this.
I mean, parent to parent.
Listen, we get it, dude. When you got that newborn and you're 74 years old and you have a newborn, yeah, man, your brain's a little rotted. I bet. So yeah, they're a little slow on the uptake, I think, with processing new information. It does make pictures of them very fun, and like documentaries and stuff. I mean, you can get so close to these guys and they are not bothered at all.
Right.
Like, I mean, the documentary crew is basically in their nest, like filming them.
It's not going to be one of those, we had to trek through the Amazon rainforest and
no, they're like, we were in their house. We were in their living room filming them.
And then finally, after 30 days, we found it in a tree.
And then, like, you step on a twig wrong and it, runs off never to be seen again.
Right. Yeah, no, not that.
No. The final category we're rating animals on is aesthetics. I'm giving them an 8 out of 10. The smoky eye alone on this queen. Have you seen the smoky eye on the Laysan albatross?
Oh, yes.
Whew, it's good. It's so good. Like, it's a beautiful smooth gradient, cut crease and everything. It's great. They do have a very prominent eyebrow ridge that makes them look very angry. And from head on, they look like the Eagle Muppet.
The eagle. Yeah.
They look real mad. And I don't know why they have that prominent eyebrow ridge, but it makes them look really angry.
Yeah.
And it's a little goofy. Head on is not their best angle. They look pretty silly from head on. But they're really, really like, I love their streamline. They're so streamlined, like very smooth, and I don't know. I think they're pretty. And also their movements and like the sort of S shape, the dynamic soaring has a very graceful motion to it. And I love the sounds that they make and the dancing and the embracing and like that. I think they're gorgeous. I think they're really pretty birds.
Aww.
Most species of albatross are some type of conservation concern.
Okay.
Actually, the Galapagos albatross is critically endangered, which is, like I said, the only species of albatross found in the tropics. Oh, by the way, the wind speed limitation is one of the reasons they're only found in polar regions. Oh. So like Southern Ocean and like Northern Pacific Ocean, because that's where it's windiest.
Oh, okay. Because then that doesn't work anymore if they're too close to the equator.
Right. If those winds are too calm, then they can't do the dynamic soaring, and they would have to flap more, and they're not built for that. Huh. But in that one area of ocean between the Galapagos Islands and Peru, there's like an ocean current that makes it comes up the coast of South America, and it makes that area particularly windy. So like that specific area is windy enough for them.
Yeah.
But that's why they're only there and nowhere else. It's weird.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder how stable that system is.
Well, they're critically endangered, so I would say not the most.
Yeah.
So there are a few big threats to albatrosses, one of which is longline fishing. So this is like rod and reel, like fishing with bait on a hook and like a fishing line.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, because albatrosses forage on fish close to the surface. So when albatrosses are like flying around, and a lot of times they're attracted to fishing vessels. So if they see a boat, they know there's going to be humans nearby. They know there's probably going to be food in the water. So albatrosses start circling around ships. And then when there's bait in the water, they'll go for it. Like to them, they're dumb, so they'll go for it. And they grab the bait and then either injure themselves on the hook or they get tangled up in the fishing line or something like that, and then they can drown or hurt themselves to the point that it affects their ability to fly and forage.
That one episode of SpongeBob comes up in mind. Like, does this look dangerous to you? And he has like 10 hooks in his mouth.
Yeah, that's what they're dealing with. So longline fishing is really bad. Like I mentioned earlier, invasive species are a huge danger to albatrosses because they, can't defend themselves. And those invasive species are particularly dangerous to the young albatrosses.
Right.
And also, since albatrosses both take a really long time to mature and also only lay one egg per year, it takes them a very long time to recover their populations. So when there's a die-off, when a lot of them die off, it's really hard for them to build those numbers back up because it can take a decade for an albatross that's hatching now to be ready to lay more eggs.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
At least 8 years before they're ready to have babies. And then it's just one a year, right? So not a rapid turnaround. Now, you may have heard, or listeners may have heard, you haven't, I asked you earlier, listeners may have heard references to albatrosses or an albatross as a literary metaphor. And this originates with the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is a lyrical ballad, a very long poem by English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And it was published in 1798.
Okay.
So it's written in that antiquated English style where it's just on the verge of being incomprehensible. It's not quite Shakespearean, but it's definitely very antiquated. So in this poem, a mariner is telling a story of a journey in which his ship is blown off course by a storm and gets stuck in an ice jam. And then an albatross guides their ship out of the ice jam. So the ship follows this albatross, and this albatross seems to bring some winds with it.
Okay.
The ship follows the albatross out, and then the mariner, it's not really explained why, but he shoots the albatross with a crossbow.
Huh.
So this angers the spirits.
Yeah.
And the ship is blown off course and then becalmed, meaning it is stranded with no wind. Blown out into the middle of the ocean, nothing around it. They're totally lost, and also there's no wind. So it's not going anywhere. The crew of the ship is obviously very angry, and they punish the mariner by hanging the albatross around his neck.
Okay.
I'm assuming they mean with a rope or something like that.
Sure.
'Cause there's no way you could wrap it around. It's not like a goose, you can't wrap the whole thing around there.
Pin the wings together to make a necklace type thing.
Oh, well, I'm assuming they mean with a rope.
Yeah.
But anyway, they hang the albatross around his neck as sort of punishment, and also as a reminder of you were the one that did this to us, basically. Things get much worse from there. It's basically this epic story of vengeful spirits and personification of death and
Did you say this was a poem?
Yes, this is a poem.
Okay.
It's very gothic. It's very like, it reminds me of like Pirates of the Caribbean, sort of like ghosts and angry spirits and stuff like that. If you want to read it, actually the full text is available at poetryfoundation.org. It's like a 10 to 20 minute read. I read it.
That's a long poem.
Yeah. It's really long. I read it.
Yeah, I mean,
I read it for this. I didn't have to. I realized like halfway through, I was like, I don't need to read all this. But I'd already committed. I was like, all right, I got to see it through. So ever since that poem, an albatross has been used as a metaphor, usually to mean a burden of guilt. So it is something that is burdensome, something that weighs you down or like acts as an obstacle or prevents you from doing things. And it's usually something that burdens you as a result of a mistake that you have made or something that you're guilty of or something you're ashamed of. So that's usually what it means. It's something that is like a shame or a guilt that weighs you down.
I'd say I'm pretty confident I've never heard it used this way. Do you have some examples of some famous works?
I'm so glad you asked. I do. One such reference to the Ancient Mariner occurs in Taylor Swift's 2024 album, The Tortured Poets Department, which I'm sure is what you're familiar with.
It is not.
Taylor Swift has a song titled The Albatross.
Ah.
Yes, in which she is kind of calling herself an albatross, or at least the song seems to be kind of about how people warn her partners about her and saying that she is an albatross to them. And that it seems to be kind of like other people warn her partners that like she's dangerous and that she's a burden and that she's like an albatross of sorts and then she kind of owns it. Like in the song, she says like, I am the albatross. And then she talks about like, you know, she uses more sort of like flight imagery to be like spreading her wings and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, I don't know, taking ownership, I guess, of the albatross label.
This might be more relevant than you are guessing.
What?
Well, today was the Super Bowl.
Oh. Wait, was one of the teams, was it?
Yes.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure they lost.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, man. Rest in peace. Sorry, Taylor.
Well, there's a lot of weird stuff out there about the fans' opinion of Taylor Swift because of all that. But
well, I, being a very serious professional journalist, I consulted with my liaison to the Taylor Swift community. Taylor Swift couldn't be reached for comment. I texted her and she didn't text me back. Taylor Swift, she left me on red. I guess she was busy at the Super Bowl. But I did consult with my liaison to the Swiftie community, which is to say I texted my sister.
Yeah.
And I asked her what that song was about, because it seemed like that. I know that album is very like fan heavy, like it's a lot of stuff that like fans will get. And I'm not a regular fan of Taylor Swift. I'm not like a Swiftie. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. I'm not well versed enough I'm not steeped in the culture. So I don't like, I didn't know like what interpretation was most common, I guess, of that song. Cause I was like, is she referring to herself as the albatross or like her fame as the albatross? What's the albatross in this situation? And my sister did kind of have the takeaway that her fame and like her position as like a high scrutiny figure is burdensome and acts as an albatross in her relationships, and that people like warn her partners about her for that reason. But just last little thing, at the 2024 Grammys, Taylor Swift wore an outfit that many believed to be a reference to the albatross. It was a floor-length white gown with long black gloves, evoking the image of a wandering albatross, which are all white with black wingtips.
Very good.
It's a great look, and we love red carpet bird cosplay. We love to see bird cosplay on the red carpet. I love it. Happy to see animal representation. Is that everything? That's everything.
Any non-Taylor Swift references you got?
Oh, God.
Just curious.
This is probably one of those things where now that I've explained it to you, you're suddenly going to notice it like every day.
Yeah.
Like you're going to notice it all the time. Let's see what Wikipedia has obviously a page for albatross, and then it has a page for albatross metaphor. Oh, you're going to love it. In the fantasy MMORPG RuneScape.
Oh, good.
This albatross, known formerly as the Scourge, is the flagship of the infamous pirate lord Rabid Jack.
Oh, yeah, I'm not familiar with all that.
There's apparently a reference in BioShock Infinite.
Huh. Okay, so they're out there.
Yeah, I don't see anything in here that I think you would recognize. Now that I've told you about it, now, of course, you're going to notice it everywhere.
Surely.
That's called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. So that's Albatrosses.
Thanks, babe.
Thank you for listening to me talk about them. This was probably the most I've ever prepared for an episode. That was a lot. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for spending this time with us. I hope that you liked it. And also, if you did like it, I hope you leave behind some kind words in a review on your podcast app of choice, like Brachiosaurus 13, who said, "Love this podcast, especially when they interview experts. Would love more episodes with experts and scientists talking about Australian fauna." I have good news for you, Brachiosaurus 13. Not about the Australia thing, but about your username. May or may not be a little something coming up sometime soon. If you know what I mean. That was just for you, Brachiosaurus 13. Everybody else turn it off.
That's right.
Everybody else cover your ears. Don't listen.
Right. We're going to talk about the number 13.
You've all been demanding it. If you want to come hang out with us, we're online. The most I'm active on these days is Blue Sky. Also, I made a podcast Blue Sky account. So if you want to come hang out with us online, we're on there. You can also email any cool animals you want to hear about on the show to ellen@justthezooofus.com. We would like to thank Maximum Fun for having us on their network alongside the other amazing shows in the network that you heard promos for earlier this episode. So if you want to go check those shows out, learn more about the network, also learn how you can be a part of supporting our show and get access to our bonus content, like the episode we just put out, a week or so ago, where we make D&D characters based on different animals. It was really, really fun. So if you want to go check that out, head over to MaximumFun.org. And we'd like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and happy Valentine's Day.
I didn't think of anything. Just thinking about them birds.
Always, all day, I dream about birds. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows,
supported
directly
by you.